Hi all. Thanks for joining. This is our third event for Kitchener Canada Developer Group, and today we will be talking about Einstein Bots. Today we have Shruti Sridharan with us. So without any further delay, let me go to my next slide, which is all about our sponsors. So you're very lucky that we have Appirio, Cloud Vandana, and Salesforce Apex Server supporting us for our this type of online events. A quick introduction of myself. My name is Shudipto Dev. I am a technical architect with Appirio, a Wipro company. I am 2.5x traded ranger. At the same time, I am 7x SFO certified. I keep on blogging on my own blog, which is www.sudipta-dev.in. I am co-organizer of the Kitchener Canada Developer Group, and you can always follow me at Shudipta_1984. That's my Twitter handle. Now I will hand over this to Shruti and let Shruti, introduce herself. So Shruti, it's to you now.
Can you see my screen, Sudipta?
Yes, we can see your screen. Go ahead, please.
Okay. All right. So I'm Shruti Sridharan. I work as a Salesforce developer, and I hail from Kerala, which is in India, and I have spoken at multiple conferences and webinars. I also lead the student and WIT user groups in Kerala, and you can find me on Twitter at Shruti for Chess, and reach out to me on my website shrutisridharan.com. So what do we have for today? We will explore what's all the hype about Einstein bots. We will learn what are the prerequisites for building a bot. Then we will look at different parts of the bot, and then the exciting part, hands-on. And in this, we will learn how we can extend the capabilities of a bot using Apex and Intent. And finally, some points to remember, and we will wrap it up. So here is what our leaders say about chatbots. I am pretty sure that down the line, every site with an online support will soon start harnessing the power of chatbots. So, in simple words, Einstein bot is nothing but a chatbot. It is designed to take care of customers when an agent couldn't make it. You know what? We don't really require a human agent for simple use cases like uh, tracking the status of an order or maybe canceling an order. The agent should really focus on more complex queries. And this is where chatbots come into play. They are built to support the human agents so that by the time the agent takes over the case, he or she already has a good context of the situation. And most importantly, Einstein bots are powered by Salesforce's very own AI tool. Now, how can I build an Einstein bot in one of my orgs? First thing first, you need to be on the summer 18 or above. Then The next most important thing is the service cloud license. It's important to remember that Einstein bots are a part of the service cloud. It's an extension of the live agent feature. Last but not the least, you can build bots only in Lightning experience. Now, we have a bit of terminologies that we need to know when we start using the Einstein bots. So let's explore the three main things: dialogues, entities, and slots. So let's look at dialogue. I'm certain you all might have guessed what a dialogue is. Yes, a basic unit of conversation. Think of it like a contextual talk happening between you and the bot. It can be a message, a question, an action, or even a rule. So let's look at each one of these. An example of a message is, say, "Hello, I'm an Uber bot here. How may I help you?" It could be a greeting or a plain text conveying a message to the user. An example of a question is, say, assume that you are talking to weatherbot, which can tell you the weather in cities. So the first thing that the bot would need to know would be, which city are you from? So that's a question. All right, let's see what actions are used for. In the same example of a weatherbot, after you receive the city from the user, you would need to look into the database, or maybe query a bunch of records, or maybe even do an API call to get the weather in that city. And this is where an action comes into picture. It's used when you want to invoke a piece of Apex code. And I absolutely love this part of it. And the last, rules. So what if you wanted to ensure that the user isn't making a fool out of you? What if he or she wrote burger when the bot asked for a city? And this is where you can use rules to validate your inputs. Now let's get down deeper. The next integral part of a bot is a slot. In simple words, it's a variable to store the answers to the questions that the bot had asked. In fact, in Winter 19, it'll be renamed as variables. Safe harbor. In the previous slide, we saw a question, which city are you from? So we use a slot to store the answer from the user. Not only can slots be used to store data, but you can use your familiar merge syntax, as you can see on the screen, in messages to interpolate the slot data. Now, what is an entity? Think of an entity as a bucket of slots. I mean, to group all the slots together. A slot gets assigned to an entity so that the system knows how to handle the slot input or output. All right, let's build one. So our use case is a foodie bot called Edesia Bot, and using this bot, you can find a restaurant of your own choice. Now, how this is going to be possible with help of bots, then Einstein intent and the Zomato APIs. So let's see it in action now. So this is my Salesforce org where I have the bots set up. So let me navigate to the Einstein bots from the service setup menu, and now you can see the Edesia bot is listed here. Now let me click on the first version of my Edesia bot. Now this is an overview of the Edesia bot. Now I'm clicking on this menu and I select dialogues from here. And this is actually an active bot, and hence we can see the preview button over here. So let me hit the preview button, and from here I select a snap in and I hit on the submit button. And now let me click on the chat with an expert button and start my bot. So this brings up a pre-chat form, and so let me start filling all the details and start chatting. So now the bot is in action, and it's asking us how we can help. So I type here find a hotel. Now this is the mind-blowing part. I type the sentence, and the Einstein bot used the intent AI to find the right dialogue that needs to be fired. So don't worry, we will be building this soon. So now it's asking me for the city, and let's me type New York as the city, and I hit enter. So guess what happened? An API call was made to the Zomato APIs, and the city was identified, and it also shows you a list of predefined cuisines. Now let me choose pizza. So there you go, all the restaurants in New York that serves you pizza. So this again was a result of an API call to the Zomato. So now let us start building one. So I go to, I hit on the back button, And now I'm in the Einstein Bots section, and I click on the new button over here, and I click next. And now let me name my bot as Edesia Demo. And again I hit the next. Now it's asking me for a greeting message. So let me give a greeting message. Hello, I am Edesia Bot. How may I help you? And now I am clicking the next button, and I'll skip the menu items for now, and I will hit on create. We will give it some time. Okay, that was quick. Now let me click the finish button, and this would take me to the bot builder overview. Now from this drop down list, let me hit the dialogues. Now here you can see few uh, predefined pre-created dialogues which we don't need, and hence I will be removing them. And I'll be creating my okay. So now let's create a new dialogue called find a restaurant. Now as the first item, let me add a message which would say, all right, so you want to find a restaurant. Okay, so we have successfully created a message item. Now the next thing is to ask for the city from the users, and for that I am clicking on this plus button and clicking on question. And the question would be, could you please tell me your city? And now I create a slot over here called city to collect the value, the city value entered by the users, which will be of type text, and finally hit the save. Once we have successfully finished creating the question, the next item will be an action, and from here let us fire an at invocable method in the Zomato find location class. So it's actually having an input parameter. So as the input parameter, I am uh, giving my slots value, that is city's value, which will be nothing but the location entered by the user. And as the uh, output, I am actually creating a new slot called city ID, which will be again of type text, and finally hitting the save button. So now let's have a look at our Zomato find location class. So this is the Zomato find location class, and as you can see, we have an at invocable method defined in this called locate, which would call the locate method defined in the Zomato API class. So now let's have a look at the Zomato API class. So this is my Zomato API class. As you can see here, first I have two private string variables called user key and the Zomato host. Uh, so it's nothing but for using the Zomato APIs, you will have to create a new account in the Zomato developer account, and once when you create a new account, you would be getting user key, which will be unique for each users. And Zomato host is nothing but the host of the uh, Zomato endpoints, which we can use. Then we have a private method called build request. So it does nothing but create an instance of the HTTP request class and return the same. Then now we have our locate uh, method defined over here, and as you can see, it's receiving a string parameter called location. Uh, so this was the value, the city value which we were passing from our Einstein bot builder. And then once when we receive the location, what we do is we make an API call to the locations endpoint of Zomato APIs along with the uh, location that we received as a parameter. So once the call is successful, we get a JSON response, which we are then deserializing it. And finally, we are actually returning the location's ID or the city ID, which we are collecting in our bot in a new slot called city ID. So once that is done, the next is to add a question.
Shruti,
Yes.
Sudipta here. So before we go a little further, I just want to give a quick update here. This this slot, it's more like a variable, and Salesforce is going to rename that slot to a variable in the coming release. Again, it's a safe harbor, but that's the plan from the Salesforce side. And from the Zomato, it's like a outside Salesforce API, which is very famous all over the world. And what it is supposed to do, you pass something to that Zomato API, and it will return you the response. Like if you pass the city, it will use this API and find out, like, okay, you pass New York, okay, this is the ID of New York, and you can use that ID to find out the nearby restaurant and all these things. So that is something that Shruti is trying to explain here, and it's a very good use case. So guys, any questions you have, please put it on the chat window. After the session, we'll be having a Q&A session, and we'll answer all these questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Shruti. You can go ahead now.
Okay. So the next thing is to add a question wherein we ask the user to select one of the predefined cuisines. So now let me type in the question called what is the cuisine of your choice? And now I again create a new slot over here called cuisine of interest, which will be of type text, and I hit the save button. So whatever cuisine the user selects will be stored in this slot. Now I create few choices of my cuisines. So let me create pizza, um, grill, then maybe European, then pretzels. Yes, okay. Now once I've done this, my next item will be again a question, and let me type here you go, and I'm creating a new slot over here called selected restaurant, which will be of type text, and finally hitting the save. Now here the choices will be dynamic, and here I call an apex class uh, called Zomato Find Restaurants, and here I have like two input parameters. One is the city ID and the other is the cuisine of interest. So in the city ID, I am passing the city ID that I had collected before, and in the cuisine of interest, I'm passing the cuisine of interest slot in which I have collected the user's selected cuisine. And I'm also defining an error rule over here called redirect to dialog, and I'm creating a new dialog called no restaurants found. So if no restaurants are found, then it will be redirected to this dialog, and finally hitting the save. Now let's have a look at the Zomato Find Restaurants class. So this is my Zomato Find Restaurants class, and here you can see I have an add invocable method called Find Restaurants. In that, I'm calling the Find Restaurants method, which is defined in my Zomato API class. So now let's have a look at that. So this is my Zomato API class, and here I have the find restaurants method, and here I am receiving the city ID as well as the selected cuisine by the user, and once I receive that, I am as a parameter, I am making an API call to the search endpoint of the Zomato APIs, the city ID and the selected cuisine. And when the call is successful, I get a JSON response, which I am deserializing and then creating a list of restaurants, and then finally passing that list. So that's with the find restaurants method. Now let's go back to the Einstein bot builder. So now we are on the last step. So my final step is to create a message, and so here I would display the restaurants. So I'm writing, so you chose in the merge field. I'm using the slot that I'd created before, select restaurant, enjoy your meal. And finally, I'm hitting the save button. Now, the next step is to define the no restaurants found dialog, which I had created in while I was configuring the find a restaurant dialog. So here, let me just add a message, say like, sorry, no restaurants were found, and let me just save it. Now, my next step will be to define the dialog intent. So let's go to the Einstein intent section over here, and intent set section over here. So you can access this by just typing the word intent in the setup menu and then selecting this. So here, as you can see, that I have my Edesia Bot intent set defined over here, and let me just view it. So intent set is nothing but it just tells our bot like what to do. It uses the uh, Salesforce intent APIs to tell our bot from the user's input, like what next has to be done. So here I have two intents defined, and we'll be using the find a restaurant queries intent. So let us edit it now. And now let's have a look at the find a restaurant queries intent that I had created. As you can see that I have like around 20 customer inputs, or the 20 different ways in which a person or a user can ask for restaurants to find a restaurant. So in this intent set, like we can like say I need to search for a restaurant, or maybe search for a restaurant, get me all the restaurants. So all this would simply mean to find the restaurant for the user. And the minimum number of customer inputs that we have to define is 20, but the more the better. So this is about the intent set. Now let's use it in a bot. So here now I click on the add intent, and I select the find the restaurant queries intent that I created, and finally hit the save button. Also, another thing that we will have to note here is we cannot train the bot unless we have like two dialog intents defined. So I just defined one dialog intent over here. So now let me just create one more dialog, say like know your restaurant, and hitting the save button. And okay, that's, and in the dialog intent I am adding an intent which I had created before, uh, called no restaurants review, and finally hitting the save. So now in my Edesia demo bot, I have like two dialog intents defined. One is for know your restaurant, and another is in find a restaurant. So once I have done that, the next step will be to train my bot. So for that, I go to the overview section, and here I click on the train bot button over here, and this should start training my bot. This is actually a bit time consuming process, so I'll be continuing with my presentation. So all it does is it finally trains the bot, and once the success message is displayed, you can start using your bots. So now let's go back to our presentation. So now there are few things to remember while using the Einstein bots. So bots will never replace the human agents. It's to help the human agents. And guess what? You have like more features coming in winter 19, and you can even invoke flows. Now that's going to be awesome. Also, this is very important that Einstein Bots ties itself to the live agent feature. So with that, we have come to the end of the presentation. Now let's have Q&A. So any questions?
Hey, Suti. Here. So we have
Yes.
few questions here. So let's go
Okay.
one by one. The first question came from Panumita. The question was like, we are looking into we are looking into mostly the user entering the correct response. How do you handle
Mhm.
if user enters say Canada instead of an actual city? So instead of the city, if the user enters like the country name, like how you want to how you can handle that? Because it's a human, right? Human can make mistakes.
Yes. Okay, that's a great question. So this is exactly where the Einstein intent sets and APIs would come into play. So you will need to train your bot in a way that it can handle and understand like multiple inputs.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in my Edesia bot, even when I mistype like find like HOTE and miss the last word, or maybe any spelling mistake in the word hotel or something, but uh, it will still work fine.
Right.
So that is because of intent. So thanks to intent.
Mm-hmm. So it's more like the more you educate, the more Einstein will become intelligent.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good.
So it's always advised to give like more customer inputs when you configure your intent sets, Einstein intent sets.
Perfect. Hope that answers Paramita's question. Moving to the next one, which came from Krishna. And the question was like, what are the other capabilities of Einstein? We know score prediction and the chatbot, but what are the other capabilities of Einstein?
Okay. So chatbot isn't a capability of Einstein. Einstein bot simply uses the Einstein intent API and thus making it intelligent. Some other features include like sentiment analysis, object detection using vision, etc.
Okay, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. Moving to the next one, which came from Manish. How accurate is the prediction in bot? We have defined 20 intents. What is the probability of Einstein correctly predicting the intent of the user input? So, yeah, I can take that question, Shruti. So, Manish, it's more like, the probability of accuracy based on the education or based on the time that you'll give to the Einstein. The more time you'll give, the more intent you will put, the probability of accuracy will be higher. Okay, moving to the next question from Sujit. How can we have a go to previous menu kind of action? Okay, Shruti, you want to take that? It's like a flow action, like go to the previous menu. Do we have that action in Einstein bot?
Yeah, you can actually add dialogues in between to like less users to go to that menu.
Okay.
So when you are defining that, you can add like more dialogues and redirect the users to that menu.
But in that case, do I end up with creating a same dialogue 10 times?
Um, no, that wouldn't happen. Like based on like the inputs, you can just redirect accordingly. You can actually
Because
reuse the dialogues that you are creating.
this is the problem I'm facing right now. So I cannot reuse the dialogue. I can create the same dialogue but with different name. Then I'm currently ending up with multiple dialogues with the same functionality or same menu.
It's of the same functionality that you need, then you can actually reuse your dialogues that you had created.
Can you show how it can be used if possible?
Uh, like
I might be expecting more, but yeah, if possible.
uh, like what use case you want me to
For
show?
example, if you enter first Mumbai and then while selecting a pizza, he comes to know like he was entered it wrong. He is in Pune. Then how that can be handled?
So when the question sorry, so when the bot asks you for city, you enter Mumbai.
Yeah, but then when bot asked for pizza or pasta, then I came to know that I'm not in Mumbai. I'm in Pune. Then I want to go back to previous question.
Okay, so I actually don't have readily available, but maybe I can show that to you later. Maybe I can build that for you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, maybe I'll send it to you after the demo.
Yeah, shall I ping here my email ID where you can send a screenshot of what you built? Is that possible?
This is Sujit, right? Sujit, you have
Yeah.
that Kitchener user group in the success community, right? I think Shruti is also
Yes.
there.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
talk about the
Got
success
it.
so that that your user case, if other people are also facing the same problem, they can take advantage out of that, right?
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Shruti. Yeah.
Problem. Okay, and thanks, Shruti.
Okay,
Moving to the next question, which
okay, no
came
problem.
from Jason. When the user wishes to speak with an agent, how do you queue to the correct agent based on, or maybe information collected? So it's more like based on the question, how you route that person to a different agent.
Or you have set attributes as within your slots. Can you use the slots information to queue to the correct agent? Like
Right?
how do you tie that together?
That's a very good
So
question.
no, that happens actually in the later period. Like bot is simply to augment the human. So you need to configure your omni-channel and the live agent with skills to handle this.
So it's basically, Jason, like bot is like when there is no human, it's
Yeah.
trying to replace the human and handling the user. But in case of the bot is not able to handle, then bot will route that, customer to a particular agent based on the input. But that's, beyond Einstein. When Einstein is not able to handle and user is something looking more specific, then it will be routing to the actual agent, and that is a part of like the omni routing.
Okay, I
Yes.
guess I'm trying to figure out how do you tie slots potentially into omni routing, or is that just custom code that you have to build?
I don't know. I need
I'm
to.
sorry,
So,
I didn't get you.
so for instance, let's pretend you do sales support and service support. Somebody comes in and says, "I want to talk about sales support," to the bot. They go back and forth with the bot. Now, when it's all said and done, I want to talk to somebody. So the bot did what it was supposed to do. We set some initial data attributes within the slots, but now when I queue it, I want to queue it to a salesperson and not a service person because I know they are talking to us about sales. So how do I say I want this one to queue to salesperson versus a service person?
Yes, so what you can do is also record your reply by creating a case record. And using that case record, you can do the routing.
Okay. And I guess I could also, when I collect information, I could set a skill maybe as part of that as well, based on how they
Uh,
responded.
yes, right. You can do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Good question, Jason. Moving to the next question, which is coming from Ram. How to make it available this live agent bot for outside Salesforce users?
So
Yeah.
with you can actually use the live agent, and with that you can do it.
Right. Live agent will give you some code which you can put, like, outside Salesforce, your web page, or, in the community, which is outside Salesforce. And from there, you can take advantage of this Einstein bot.
Yes. So bot is just an extension of live agent.
Exactly. Good.
Yes.
I think we are end of the questions. We don't have any more questions, guys. Feel free, if you have any more questions, please post in that. Okay, there is another question coming up from Jason. Do you need to
Yeah.
print the bot out twice if you're using additional languages? Okay. So if there is a multiple language support like English, French, German, do we need to create multiple bot, or is a single bot can handle multi-language?
So actually only English is supported.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
For now.
Yep. And now it's only the English is supported. We
Okay.
need to see like whether the multi-language is still it's probably in the pipeline.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're almost at the end of the session. Thank you all for joining. Any questions you have, please feel free to post in the Kitchener user group. And thank you, Shruti, for joining us and giving this session. It's really helpful. And yep, that's all from my side. Thank you, guys, and have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thank you, Sudipta, for giving me the opportunity.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.